They never planned to wake up with thoughts of you taking over their mind completely. This is the first important thing you need to understand. Most people are too weak to face what they have pushed down deep inside, using all their strength and determination over time. That intensity has already taken hold of them because staying indifferent works in a quiet way that is hard to notice at first. But this situation was never truly silent in reality. It turned into a real inner struggle they had been losing even while their eyes stayed closed and the world around them looked completely calm on the surface. You sensed it yourself, didn't you? That small shift, that hidden flow of energy, like something important was growing quietly just beneath their calm and steady appearance. It was not really about distance or mixed feelings at all, but something far more serious instead. This was about a real recognition of what was happening deep inside them without any doubt left. People do not welcome their emotions when those feelings first begin to rise. Instead, they push them away and question them from every possible angle. They hide those emotions under logic, ego, and the strong walls they built over many years. Because what they feel for you does not match the image they are trying so hard to maintain every single day without breaking it. This inner conflict is where things start to become difficult for them. The stronger a feeling challenges their pride, the harder they try to suppress it. This process is what psychologists like Freud described as repression, the mind's way of hiding desires that feel unacceptable. But repression is not about truly erasing feelings. It creates pressure that keeps building over time inside a person. And pressure always finds a way out eventually, no matter how tightly someone tries to hold it back. Most people do not realize this until it becomes too late for easy control. What they refused to accept yesterday slowly becomes the force that controls their thoughts today, without them even noticing it clearly. That is exactly why this morning felt different for them. It was not because something new began, but because something finally broke inside them. And you were not there to witness that private collapse of denial. This hidden breakdown was not a spoken confession or message. It was the moment their usual escape routes stopped working completely. If you have ever been the person they could not stop thinking about in the morning silence, then you were not just a memory anymore. You became a realization they could not avoid. Attraction can be dismissed, and curiosity can fade, but when something carries emotional weight, the mind begins to crack. They were forced to face a question they avoided for a long time. Why do you affect them so strongly? They tried to answer using logic alone, telling themselves it was temporary, meaningless, or just coincidence. They labeled it as chemistry, timing, or passing circumstance, holding on to anything except the truth they feared. But the truth is simple. You do not struggle to explain something that has no importance. You do not fight against something that does not exist. You do not try to suppress feelings that are empty. Every attempt they made to remove you from their mind only made your presence clearer. Every distraction they used collapsed right when they needed it most. This is not weakness. It is the pull of something real that they cannot fully control. They did not want something that escaped their control. They wanted full control over their emotions and decisions at all times. But you disrupted that balance they had built over years. You became the one thing they could not predict or solve with logic. That loss of control is what scared them the most. It was not only about you, but about what you awakened inside them. You did not create a small reaction in their life. You activated something they could not manage easily. People do not fear emotions as much as they fear losing control over themselves. This explains why they pulled away suddenly and became inconsistent. Their behavior was not due to lack of feeling, but because the feeling became too strong to handle comfortably. Avoidance is never proof of absence of emotion. It is proof of emotional overload. Their conscious mind tried to stay rational and safe, while their subconscious kept bringing you back. In quiet moments, When distractions faded, your presence returned again and again. Over time, they noticed something they could not ignore anymore. You were not fading away. You were becoming stronger in their mind. Denial requires distance to survive, but your influence did not need physical closeness. Once a feeling crosses into deeper awareness, it stops asking for permission and starts demanding attention. That moment arrived for them in a quiet but powerful way. If you understand what it feels like when denial collapses without noise or drama, you already know this state. It did not come as chaos. It came as silence that felt overwhelming. Their inner walls did not fall from outside pressure. They broke under the weight of what was already inside them. It was not a spoken truth, but something understood internally in a way that cannot be undone easily. You can lie to others, and even to yourself for a while, but once the mind accepts truth fully, it does not let it go easily. Now they know it, not partially, but completely. And acceptance does not bring immediate peace. It creates inner conflict, because now they must face everything they avoided before. What this feeling means, where it leads, and what it demands from them. Emotions like this do not stay still, they grow stronger and continue moving forward. Right now, they are standing at the edge of that pressure, trying to hold on to control while everything inside them keeps shifting. This was never only about you as a person, it was about the deeper parts of themselves that you awakened. That process is still ongoing and not finished yet. They once believed that accepting feelings would make things easier, but they were wrong. Naming the feeling did not calm it, it only made it more real. Once something has a name, it becomes harder to escape. Awareness does not reduce emotion, it sharpens it and turns it into something undeniable. That reality started pressing on them immediately. They can no longer pretend nothing is happening. Every thought now carries weight. Every memory feels meaningful. Every silence feels full of tension. When the mind can no longer deny reality, it splits into two directions. One part moves toward you, while the other pulls away. Neither side wants to surrender. This is not simple confusion, it is an internal struggle between desire and self-protection. Both sides grow stronger because the feeling has moved beyond attraction into emotional attachment. Attachment feels threatening to anyone afraid of losing control over their life. That is why their defenses rise even higher. After realizing their feelings, they did not move forward. They paused, overthought, and analyzed everything repeatedly. Even simple things now feel complicated because they carry emotional risk. Anything meaningful starts to feel like a threat to their independence and identity. And this contradiction is what drains them daily. The same feeling pulls them closer while also pushing them away at the same time. It creates constant tension inside them. It follows them into everyday moments. Even silence now feels connected to you in some way. If someone is suppressing strong emotions, even small things like tone of voice or silence can bring those feelings back instantly. The subconscious does not follow logic or timing, it follows emotion. You are no longer optional in their thoughts. Now they face the question they avoided for so long. Why you? Out of everyone, why do you affect them in this way? The more they try to find logical answers, the less sense it makes. This connection was never built on easy comfort or simple situations that could be quickly explained away with words. It cannot be reduced to one basic reason or a single clear story. It comes from something far deeper, rooted in genuine recognition that feels both unchosen and impossible to fully avoid at the same time. If this connection is truly real, then it requires something important from them, including action, honesty, openness, and personal emotional exposure, which they have been avoiding for many years in their life. Because of this, they try to delay progress and create distance, hoping to slow down what is already increasing inside their mind in a steady way. Distance does not weaken a real emotional bond. In fact, it often makes it stronger because it removes external distractions that usually occupy the mind. When those distractions fade, only the deeper truth remains, and that truth becomes louder, not quieter, as time passes. They can feel this shift clearly in the way their thoughts keep returning to you without warning. They notice sudden emotional waves that rise during the day, and they experience something inside that refuses to stay calm, no matter how much they try to control it. Suppression keeps failing repeatedly, no matter their effort or intention. A real inner tension begins to build because they are fully aware of what they feel, yet they continue resisting it. They recognize the truth, but still question it with doubt. They see its importance, but avoid fully carrying its weight in their life. This creates ongoing psychological pressure that never fully disappears. Instead, it accumulates quietly over time, tightening internally until something eventually has to give under that strain. They are not only fighting the feeling itself, but also what that feeling reveals about their hidden fears and emotional needs. What they feel for you reflects a deeper longing to connect, to be understood, and to be seen clearly without masks. At the same time, it reveals fear of allowing themselves to be emotionally affected at such a deep level. Because being affected means vulnerability, and vulnerability requires giving up control, which makes them uncomfortable. So they keep shifting between two states, emotionally moving closer and then mentally pulling away for protection. One moment they imagine positive outcomes and possibilities, and the next moment they convince themselves it is too risky or too complicated to continue. This back-and-forth behavior is not random. It acts as a protective mechanism, allowing them to experience emotion without fully surrendering to it. But meaningful emotions cannot be lived in a partial way forever. They can only be postponed temporarily, and every delay comes with a cost that builds over time. Suppressed emotions do not disappear. They transform into restlessness, inner pressure, and mental noise that becomes harder to silence even with effort. Recently, that internal noise has become stronger and more persistent in their daily life. It affects not only their emotional state, but also their thoughts, behavior, and even physical reactions. It shows up in reduced focus, sudden mood changes, and stronger reactions to unrelated situations. Something unresolved from within keeps rising to the surface, demanding attention that they are not fully ready to give. Something important is beginning to shift internally. On the outside, they may still appear composed, controlled, and calm. But beneath that surface, a different process is unfolding. The mind is no longer fully able to maintain the same level of denial. Repression always carries a cost, and that cost is now becoming unavoidable. The longer something real is pushed down, the stronger it returns later, often with greater intensity than before. What once felt manageable now feels intrusive. What once felt distant now feels close and unavoidable. What could previously be ignored now feels undeniable. When the subconscious can no longer stay contained, it does not ease in gently. It breaks through in sudden emotional reactions, irritability, and frustration over small things that normally would not matter. Even concentration weakens the moment thoughts of you appear unexpectedly. You are no longer just someone in their external life. You have become part of their internal world, living in their thoughts and emotional space in a constant way. That shift changes everything. External things can be avoided or replaced, but internal experiences follow them everywhere, even into quiet moments and rest. The absence of this connection does not bring peace. Instead, it becomes louder over time. Their resistance is weakening because the real question is no longer whether they feel something. That part is already clear internally. The question now is what they will do about it. And that is what creates fear, because action means exposure, vulnerability, and loss of control. This kind of emotional situation cannot be fully controlled once it has already transformed someone from within. The change is not temporary or superficial. It has reached deeper layers of emotional understanding, altering how they see connection, attachment, and even your absence. Your absence begins to feel more present than presence itself. That contrast becomes painful, creating a cycle of realization that nothing else feels the same anymore. Every attempt to move forward brings them back to the same awareness. This quiet comparison slowly breaks down internal defenses, because everything else begins to feel less meaningful in contrast. It forces acceptance of a truth they have tried to avoid for a long time. This connection is not easily replaceable. A growing sense of unease begins to form inside them, subtle but constant, like pressure building slowly over time. When something cannot be replaced, the fear of losing it becomes stronger than the fear of never having had it. Their behavior begins to shift in ways they themselves do not fully understand. They become unpredictable, moving between impulsive emotions and controlled restraint. One part of them wants to move closer to end the tension and silence the internal noise, while another part insists on holding back for safety and emotional protection. This internal conflict becomes exhausting. It moves beyond simple emotion into identity-level tension between who they are and what they feel. The version of them that avoids emotional exposure cannot exist permanently alongside the version that feels this deeply. Eventually, one side will have to give way. Awareness of their own avoidance begins to grow, and they start noticing their own patterns more clearly than before. This self-awareness feels uncomfortable because it removes the illusion of full control. They can no longer easily ignore their own defenses. Once avoidance is recognized, it cannot be unseen. This creates pressure that makes returning to old habits increasingly difficult. Even emotional distance begins to feel artificial, and silence begins to feel like self-denial. Something fundamental has changed within them. This internal shift is now demanding resolution. The mind cannot remain in constant contradiction indefinitely. They are approaching a point where continued resistance becomes harder than facing reality. One more emotional wave, or one more breakdown in resistance, could push them past their limit. This process will not remain gradual forever. It moves toward a clear breaking point where denial can no longer hold. The subconscious no longer waits quietly. It pushes internal feelings to match external behavior, creating pressure that forces a decision. At this stage, half measures no longer feel sustainable. A choice is forming within them, not as a sudden decision, but as a slow, unavoidable realization. Every excuse they once relied on begins to feel empty. Every delay feels intentional and artificial. Every attempt to suppress what they feel begins to feel like self-betrayal. People can tolerate fear and pain, but they cannot continuously resist what they know to be true without consequence. Eventually, a decision becomes unavoidable. They are approaching the point where avoiding this truth costs more than confronting it. Their resistance weakens not because they fully surrender willingly, but because they can no longer justify holding on to emotional distance in the same way as before. Illusions of control and the belief that time would erase these feelings begin to collapse. Time did not remove the emotion. It made it clearer, heavier, and more intense. Silence and distance no longer feel neutral. They feel unnatural and increasingly difficult to maintain. Both fear and desire are now merging into one unavoidable realization. Clarity does not bring peace, but urgency and restlessness that pushes them toward action. What they feel is no longer uncertain or weak. It has become steady, real, and deeply rooted. And when suppressed truth finally breaks through completely, it does not fade quietly. It returns with intensity that cannot be ignored, forcing everything hidden into the open.